Okay, today I'm going to go over how to write linear equations from tables and graphs. Your slope-intercept form of a line is y equal to mx plus b. Y equal to mx plus b right here. I'm going to define what m and b are on the graph, on the table, sorry. So here, your y-intercept is where x is equal to 0, always. Okay, so when this value is 0, okay, then you look over to the right on your table and you'll see your y-intercept. Now, on the test, sometimes the y-intercept is called the zero of the function. Okay, so this is very important, the zero of the function. So I'm going to be using that interchangeably in these notes. So here, we're going to take a look at write the linear equation from each table or graph. And we're first going to identify the y-intercept, or the zero of f of x. So if I look at my table here, I have x and f of x, and I'm going to look where x is 0 at. So when I find that x is 0 here, I'm going to identify that my f of x value is 3 in this situation. So what that tells me is that my b value is 3. So to identify the y-intercept, the b value is 3. Okay, that's where x equals 0. The next thing I'm going to look at is, how do I find the slope? We've done this already. I think we've done this already before, but we'll go ahead and look at this again. We're going to look at the change in y over the change in x. So we're going to take two y points and subtract them from each other. So we're going to take two y points that are connected together on the table. So I'm going to take these two, 3 and 8, and subtract from each other. And I'm going to subtract it in this order. 3 minus 8 divided by the subtraction of their corresponding x points. In this case, 0 and negative 1. And I'm going to subtract it in that order. So 0 minus a negative 1. So this gives me negative 5 divided by 1, which is just negative 5 when you divide that out. So now that I'm done with that, I now need to piece it together. The equation, as you saw earlier, was y equal to m x plus b. So I color coded so you understand what is your m and what is your b. Well, my m is in green, so I look for the green negative 5. So I'm going to write negative 5 here. X plus my yellow was the 3 right here that we found earlier from the table. And so I'm going to put 3 right here. The rest is just copying it straight down as you see it. So y equals to negative 5x plus 3. Okay, and that's my equation. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and do number 2 because we already basically did number 1, so it's finding the exact same thing again. But to refresh again, look for the 0 in the x-axis to find the y-intercept. So once I find that there, I know that the y-intercept for this guy is going to be b, which is equal to 12. So b is equal to 12 for this. Whoops. That's my y-intercept. Okay. The second, find the slope. Again, the slope is the change in x and y over x, right? The change in y over x. Okay, so again, what I did before, I take the first 2 points and I subtract them. First, I take the first two y points and I subtract them, so 6 minus 0 in that fashion. The second y point minus the first y point. And then I take the second x point minus the first. So in this case, it's going to be negative 4 minus a negative 8. So I'm going to leave that for you guys to go ahead and figure that out, which gives me 6 divided by, I believe, this becomes positive 4. And this will reduce to 3 over 2. Okay, again, plug it in to this equation right here. The green m and the yellow b, the black y and x stay the same. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and move down to the graph. Okay, again, note these two things here. Okay, note that f of x is the y-axis. Note that g of x is the y-axis. So it doesn't matter what they call the function. Okay, it's always the y-axis. So if it says h of x, z of x, p of x, it's always going to be on the y-axis. So I'm going to take a look at number 3, and I'm going to try to identify the y-intercept or the 0 of f of x. What does that mean? That means where is x 0 and where do I have a y point for that? So I look at it and I notice here, right here, where the blue graph crosses the y-axis, it crosses it at 2. So it's 0, comma 2. That is my y-intercept. Okay? So that's my y-intercept for that function. So the b that I'm looking for in that is just 2. So that's my b right there. Okay? That's my b right there. Now I want to find the slope. So in the slope, again, we're going to look at the change in y over the change in x. So here, I'm going to do a little bit of visual interpretation here. And I'm going to take a look and see, okay, where does the blue line cross the grid lines? You see all these boxes right here? I want to see where the blue line crosses perfectly, like right here. That's a nice spot where the blue line crosses the grid lines. So I'm going to mark that first point right there, where the blue line crosses the grid. And then I'm going to look around next to see, okay, where does it cross it again? I notice that the graph is moving up. So when I look left to right, the graph is moving up. So I'm moving up from this point, and I notice that it crosses the grid lines again over here. So I'm going to draw a line going up, and then a line going across here. So I notice that it's going up 3 over 1. So my change in y is up 3 over 1, which gives me 3 as my slope. So again, if I were to write my equation, y is going to equal to 3x plus 2. And that's my equation right there. Okay? So if I look over to the right, this is going to go over the same thing again, okay? But this time, you notice the graph is moving down, right? So that kind of gives you a hint of what your slope or what we call the rate of change is going to look like. So again, identify where does it cross the y-axis, and I notice that it crosses it there at 0, comma, -1. So that's my b. So my y-intercept is b equal to -1. For my slope in this one, I look to see where does it cross the grid lines perfectly. I notice that it crosses over here nicely right there. Okay, so I know that I can go down 2, go down -2, and go over 3. Okay, so my slope is -2 over 3. So from there, I'll let you guys go ahead and write the equation. Okay, y equals to mx plus b. Okay, hope that helps you out, guys.